What's up, everybody? This is Bballin, and I am here to bring you another Pro Dota match between M5 and EMC. M5, as you know, has picked up PGG and Vigoss to replace Arzart and Santa, and they have been looking very strong. Although they haven't played too many of the top 5 to top 10 European teams, but they have won pretty much all of their matches so far. So they will be put to the test today against the Swedish team, the former-Druidz, EMC. Now, I guess the Druids had a little bit of an issue with their sponsor, or they decided to part ways with their sponsor, and right now they are just on their own without a sponsor, but they are still looking very strong. We still have the core players of Druids in action today against the M5 Russian juggernauts. So this is a match from the Intel Challenge Super Cup, and already this is looking to be a really exciting tournament. Of course, all the group stage matches will be played online, and the finals, I don't know if it's the top 8 or something like that, or if it's the top 4, will be played at a LAN tournament, and the winner, I'm not too sure if it's top 3, but I know a total of $7,000 will be awarded to the top teams or top team. So that's already pretty much a double. So that's a 100% increase from the last Intel Challenge Super Cup prize, which had about $3,500. So it's looking to be a really good time to be a Dota player at this moment. What with the many tournaments, larger cash prizes than we have ever seen before, and the rise of Dota 2 in the not too distant future. So it should be really fun, really exciting to watch, and already these group stage matches have been turning out to be very interesting. The Dota 2 International Tournament winners, Navi, widely considered as the best team in the world right now, in Dota 2 that is, but probably top 3 in Dota 1 as well, next to other Chinese teams, actually got beaten by one of their opponents in the group stages, so let's see if they can make a comeback. And so, yeah, this will be M5's first, I'd say, legitimate test. They've been beating not so strong teams in their first couple matches. Those were more of scrimmages to get them ready for their upcoming tournaments. And they actually beat Tailu in the HFGL League in China, so they're 2-0 in their group stages. That is an online tournament, but just a warning, that is an online tournament. Chinese teams are known to be much more dominant on the LAN environment. And to top it off, Tailu has been looking really shaky as of late since they have lost a lot of their players ever since the international. Either they have been poached by IG or transferred to other teams or retired. Kabu retired, Awoken Faith, and Sea King have all left to join other teams. So M5 beating them on an online tournament is impressive, but I don't think it speaks to the true nature of how strong they can potentially be. But they did look really strong, so let's see how they look in this match. So I'm going to unpause right here, and let's get into the game. So let's wait for the picks. This is AP mode. I don't have the ban information from this game. I'm guessing that this was a remake since somebody dropped or they were having some lag issues. But let's see. I'm going to pause it right here for the picks. I want to talk about these picks for a little bit. So on the Scourge team, you can notice right off the bat what M5 wants to do. They want to push and they want to win in the mid game. And they picked up extremely strong early mid game heroes. Chen, probably one of the most dominant heroes in this version, as evidenced by Navi, not only in the Dota 2 tournament, but just in all of their subsequent Dota 1 matches. Chen is looking to be really powerful, and you cannot underestimate the change that Icefrog made to his Holy Persuasion Test of Faith skills. Before, Test of Faith had to be picked to either send an ally back or use it as a nuke against the enemy. But now with the sending allies back to the fountain, changed to the Holy Persuasion skill, when Chen already has three creeps, he's free to use that Holy Persuasion skill to send back his allies to the fountains if they're getting in a lot of trouble, and is free to use a 200 to 400 damage nuke, or I think that's the values, in the battle. So he's looking really strong, and having tanky creeps and having a global heal certainly helps matters a lot. Meanwhile, we have NS on the Crystal main. NS probably one of the most dominant supports in all of Europe, and I'd say in all of Dota in general, and it's going to be fun to see NS play. But the thing about these two picks is you pretty much, once you pick these two picks, you're cementing yourself into an early mid-game strategy because these two heroes do not scale well at all into the late game. Crystal Main, there are other support heroes like Witch Doctor or Vengeful Spirit who remain effective no matter what time in the game. But Crystal Main starts off really strong in the early game and she really loses her effectiveness as you transition to mid-game. Her nuke values stay the same, her aura doesn't get any stronger, and her ultimate can be potentially devastating if it is placed properly and if it's allowed to channel for its full duration. But you cannot really rely on it at all. So picking Crystal Main with her low HP pool and her early game presence really pigeonholes your team into what you can do in the mid to late game along with the Chen. So I'm guessing that M5 are going to go for more of a push teamfight oriented lineup. They picked up Invoker, and God's going to be playing that Invoker. I haven't seen God's Invoker, but I'm going to guess it's pretty good. God is extremely talented. I wouldn't be surprised to see him dominate at any role that is presented to him. Meanwhile, we have Vigoss Equilibrium on the Windrunner, so should be good. Windrunner will probably most likely pick up Force Staff because I'm going to guess that Chen is going to pick up Mechanism to help push to give his creeps and his team that healing aura along with his Hand of God, which will provide a good 500 damage in terms of healing in a team fight, which is just a massive amount of healing. So I'm going to expect Vigoss to get maybe a Force Staff or a Pipe and then transition to more of a DPS build if the Moscow 5 early to mid game strategy does not come through and they do not finish the game within the first 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we have PGG Captain Cat on the Venomancer, and Venomancer, of course, is a very versatile hero. He can push, he can defend really well with his Plague Wards, and his Poison Nova just really is a dominating factor in team fights. It just provides so much residual AoE damage, and in combination with the Chen ultimate on his team, Moscow 5 should have no trouble in winning long drawn-out team fights, what with the Chen healing, the mechanism that he's bound to get, and the Venomancer DOT Poison Over ultimate. In this case, I don't know what God will go for, if he's going to go for an Exhort build or for the standard Quaswex build that has been popularized by the Chinese and now has been adopted all over the Dota scene. So I'm going to be interested to see what the build he goes for. I'm going to guess that he's going to go for the Quaswex build because the Exhort heavy build is more of a late game and they want to win the early mid game. So he wants to get those levels of EMP and Tornado to be really high and just dominate team fights. So the massive AoE combination of Invoker and Venomancer and a lot of good pushing capabilities with the Venomancer, the Chen, and the Crystal Main will allow Moscow 5 to get a really strong early mid game and hopefully take the win. Meanwhile, on the Sentinel, we have a little bit of a curious lineup against a sort of semi-push strat. Moscow 5 doesn't have too many summons, so that might be why they didn't go so much for an anti-push. There's no Enigma, there's no Furion on the Moscow 5 team, so their only really strong anti-pushers are Earthshaker and Beastmaster. But I want to take a moment to talk about this Sentinel lineup for a little bit, because I really like it for a lot of reasons. One is just the range. Earthshaker's feature provides a massive amount of range, and I think it's 1200 range, so that's really good. Of course, Howl of Terror, another long range spell that will reveal units and provide minus armor and all of that jazz. Beastmaster axes and his roar, extremely high range. Once TA gets a blink dagger, she can blink in. And of course, Visage, who has been fading out recently because of the shift of the metagame to more dual lanes, and if there are trend lanes, the other team most likely puts their solo against it. But Visage is still a strong hero in general, although he doesn't scale too well, and his soul assumption loses effectiveness when it's not a tri-lane versus tri-lane battle, where he was and still is the king. But his birds, once he hits level 6, of course, you can send them around all across the map and use them to support ganks, help counter ganks, and just provide a lot of map vision. And that's the second part of the Sentinel strategy that I really like. They have so much vision. Beastmaster with his Hawk, Templar Assassin when she gets level 6 with her wards, she can ward up the rune spot, she can ward up hills, or the trap up hills, all of that. And those provide a decent amount of vision. And the birds will provide even more vision as they can come across anybody that they're scouting out, help their primary farmer who is probably Templar Assassin, and counter gank and gank when Visage isn't even there. So yeah, I like the Sentinel lineup, but I'm a little bit worried about how they'll fare when Moscow 5 groups up in a team fight and pushes. I think that Sentinel does have the stronger late game. I mean, the strongest late game on the Scourge is Invoker and Windrunner, and Templar Assassin will scale pretty well, and Earthshaker and Vengeful Spirit scale better than Crystalmain and Chen, just because their spells, having a chain stun like Earthshaker never really loses his effectiveness, and once he gets a Blink Dire, he becomes all that more powerful. And Vengeful Spirit, as long as she can swap people and get off a stun and provide a little bit of bonus damage for the time that she's alive, and of course the invaluable minus armor and the scouting that Hell of Terror provides, doesn't really wane in effectiveness. Beastmaster wanes a little bit, and Visage sort of, but he can get really tank and his bird skill actually quite well. But the Templar Assassin, I think, was more of a pick to go along with their map dominating strategy. I think the Sentinel team want to gank, and they're going to use their map vision to try to pick off heroes that are integral into the M5 pushing strategy, and just pick them off and prevent M5 from pushing, because M5 really need to push with all their heroes. Although Venomancer and Invoker counter TA pretty well, because Refraction, of course, gets owned by DOT damage like Venomancer's Poison and, you know, Invokers, Tornado, EMP, Cold Snap, all of that stuff. Those will just drain away the Refraction charges and make Templar Assassin's life really hard. So it'll come down to whether the Sentinel team can gank their way into securing themselves a nice farming advantage for their Templar Assassin, or if M5 will push their way to victory. So it's looking really exciting. So I'm going to unpause right now. I'm going to have Earthshaker, probably going to roam, I'm going to guess. He has a couple, actually he has tangos, which indicates that he's going to lane more likely. Of course, you want to have Visage in a tri-lane, if at all possible. So I'm going to expect to see Vengeful Spirit. Yep, they're going to put a Vengeful Spirit, Earthshaker, Visage tri-lane up top. Going to have Templar Assassin solo mid and Beastmaster solo bottom. So let's see what M5 decides to lane their team like. And that wasn't really a coherent sentence, but I don't care. So Dread's playing the Chen. I already introduced the players on the heroes respectively. So let's see, we're going to have God face against Australian, so I don't know if that was a good prediction by the EMC people, EMC team, or if they just figured, alright, we're going to put our Charlie top and just own that solo and prevent him from getting any experience at all. But God's going to have a difficult time in laning successfully against this tri-lane high burst damage team that's going to be facing him top lane. Meanwhile, Chen, of course, is going to be jungling. And let's see if NS is going to... Yep, it looks like NS will, in fact, jungle with the Chen to get a lot of experience for her. And both of them can gank really effectively. Of course, Crystalmain's Frost Nova, ridiculous amount of range. And it's a perfect initiation for Chen to bring his creep in, stomp, clap, all of that jazz, and just pick off imposing heroes. So God will have a little bit of more security with Crystalmain and Chen in his own jungle, but I mean, they're going to be in the jungle for the most part, and they're not going to be always in the lane to help God out. So it's going to be tough for God at the early levels, but I think if he can get to a decent experience, if he gets maybe one level ahead of the tri-lane, he should be okay and help set up the ganks for the Chen and the Crystalmain to be really effective. Meanwhile, Venomancer versus TA, so like I said, Venomancer owns Refraction, so a good call by, I think it's NS who's the captain, or maybe it's Dread, I'm not too sure. I know that there was a little bit of like a joke thing going around that PGG wanted to be